When higher consciousness guides our actions, we must learn to detach from the results of those actions. This is the instruction that many teachers and instructors throughout time have given us. Welcome back, dear listeners. My name is Arowinak, and today we will dwell deeper into this instruction. The consciousness and the cosmos, a path to one's own inner cosmos, in assistance of a more profound understanding of the current planetary transition, a stimuli that accompany the pilgrim in his return to his cosmic home. You will hear the literal translation of various questions on the topic and the cosmosophical answer that Daniel Gagliardo gives in one of the Cosmosophy gatherings held with Daniel Gagliardo. Let's start with the first question. Daniel, I wanted to ask you about achieving results through our actions in the area of the external system that we're living in our work environment, at school, and all that surrounds us. I have been reflecting on this for quite a while, and at times it feels quite restrictive for me. I heard in a study that the system emphasizes a focus on the result and guarantees. Could you please explain this further? Well, you defined it perfectly, says Daniel Gagliardo in his answer. The result is precisely the consequence of competitive and selfish actions that the system imposed on us. If we learn to genuinely work in group, a large part of the pretensions of results would begin to dissolve vertiginously, because results are usually a degree of expectation, of ambition, of specific attention within individualism and savage selfishness. When beings learn to work in group, they come to be in contact with stimuli that anchor at the mental and emotional level, and that later are expressed as actions that are totally different, both in their origin and in their consequence, from that which occurs in the consciousness in its individual and selfish context. Then, when the ego is brutally encapsulated, individuality is brutally encapsulated in the lower self, and the ego uses the personality as tool to obtain results and, insofar as it could, to see the results themselves in the personality, then that's exactly what is occurring. If we begin to decentralize things, if we begin to notice that we have a great illness, great ailment, if we begin to understand that this great ailment is based on feeling ourselves and wanting to confirm that we are the center of the cosmos, and that everything must give us explanation, and that everything must respond to our expectations, among them, logically, the results. An expectation is always, in the end, a search for results. If we could not overcome this, then this humanity is not going to be able to move away from this compulsiveness for the search for results, because it does not know the essence of the evolutionary group work. We reference this concept both in a horizontal sense and in a vertical sense. In the horizontal sense, we see egos coming together for a higher goal, which is precisely evolutionary group work. This is represented and symbolized by the union of individuals within the karmic and three-dimensional kingdom. In the vertical sense, genuine alignment occurs when there is authentic synchronization, attunement, resulting in a progress that harmonizes the external with the internal. When the cosmic communion is real, the pursuit of outcomes loses its significance. If that connection is genuine, the influence of our inner, cosmic, and higher states of consciousness on the external, lower aspects of ourselves leads us to learn how to transcend the need for results. As the Bhagavad Gita states, when a higher consciousness guides our actions, we must learn to detach ourselves from the consequence of those actions. That is what the Bhagavad Gita says synthetically. Learn to let go. Do not seek that the superior actions have the results that we would want. Then it is that. If any of us discovers himself compulsively behind results, trying to gratify himself from results and expectations in a particular way, know that he is going through a very selfish stage, even if apparently his consciousness had spiritual and philosophical interests. Because the test we would refer, according to our interests, which is what we are seeking, it is the degree of influence that effectively and genuinely the inner life has or does not have over us. We'll have to go a genuine work of self-observation, of self-knowledge, to advance in that type of discovery, of confirmation. Now, if one really discovers oneself as prioritizing almost compulsively or obsessively the results and wants to do something in particular to achieve it, one already knows what one has to do. Because in the search for results, there is an implicit denunciation, which is the superficiality with which we are living. The results are the consequence of a process or procedure purely superficial. We should recognize the importance of opening ourselves to a process of purification, a process of cleansing. To do this, we need to simplify our lives and focus more on our inner consciousness, seeking a deeper connection with our inner life, with our inner being. As we deepen this connection, we may find that the outcomes of our actions become less significant to us. Our inner life will reveal what truly matters in existence. At some point, it will be clear that the results are not the most important aspects of our journey, of our path. Although it may be difficult to understand, the consequences of our actions are governed by the law of karma and our inner being. We cannot dictate the outcomes to align with our desires, even if those results seem beneficial for humanity and, as a whole, for the planet. So, it is essential to shift our focus away from outcomes and towards our inner growth and understanding. Because the results in a karmic universe depend on the law of karma. One can do the most elevated within his reach, and the result, however, can be totally contrary to what the rational, analytical, and comparative mind would say has to result from an action of the caliber or condition of an action of that quality. Then, what do we discover? That it is the laws, the will of the energy that shapes the results. Our inner self and the higher will of the energy, in combination with the law of karma, continuously offer a dose that nourish with results the external reality. One can do the worst in the world and not for that reason automatically be considered as the worst result. So one may do all the best he or she can do in one situation and think that the results will be outstanding, and in contrary, the results might turn out to be disaster. What we're trying to say here is that equally, the results do not depend strictly and mathematically on this. Therefore, it is a huge illusion to believe that the results depend on us, and that if they are not, as we won't have expected, for example, we did things badly. That is why one must let go of the results, the search for determined results. Learn to let go of the expectations, but yes, always try to be and to do tirelessly the best until the end. The following questions from the audience is: Daniel, when we search for results, it feels like we are wearing an illusion that doesn't match what we understand about the universe. I see this not as a search for results, but as a creating an illusion about something that is already known in the cosmos. Is that correct? I wonder. And still, I wonder, how does this affect the energy? Does it really get disrupted when we chase the mental illusion in our quest for results? Daniel Gagliardo answers: when we say that the result is an aspect anticipated by both our inner consciousness and the law of karma regarding a situation, it is important to understand what happens when we project an expectation. By doing so, we create a fissure in our psychic layer, which affects both the situation itself and the outcomes we expect from it. Expecting a certain result opens a channel for psychic forces, mainly astral, but also mental, to connect with the situation, thereby interfering with its natural energy flow. Each situation has a circulatory order defined by our inner consciousness. The expected outcome is part of this order. It is ultimately our role to influence the shaping of the situation. The energy surrounding the situation dictates the consequences we refer to as a result. However, when we closely cling to our expectations, we inadvertently introduce disruptive elements that may cause the actual result to be completely contrary to what the energy originally intended to manifest. Expectation is often more serious than we realize. It is not just a simple projection of personal illusions. It opens the door to the psychic kingdoms, to the psychic realm, particularly to astral influences that can invade the space where the correct outcome, regulated by the inner self and the law of karma, should emerge. As a result, many outcomes fail to materialize effectively, even when the associated actions are taken in alignment with the one's being. Instead of pausing to reassess and waiting for a new inner direction before continuing their work, individuals often fixate on the outcome, clinging to their expectations and illusions. This can create a toxic cycle that hinders process. We continue with the following question. Does it interfere with what the energy had foreseen? Daniel Gagliardo answers, what energy did we foresee for this stage of transition? Did we anticipate the brutality, indifference, selfishness, aggression, and instinctiveness that humanity is currently exhibiting? Or did we expect to reach the end of this planetary transition, or perhaps the beginning, with a greater sense of harmony, equilibrium, and internal enlightenment than what we see now? Clearly, we hope for the later. However, our vision has been severely disrupted. This is why, especially in recent times, we have emphasized the importance of pioneers maintaining their connection with this energy. It is through a select group of pioneers that the entire process, encompassing thoughts, feelings, and actions as act of service, can remain unclouded by the current negativity. We cannot base our expectations on the outcomes of our internal obedience. Rather, we must focus on the process itself. Under the law of service, it is crucial to complete cycles where energy emerges at the mental level, flows through the emotional realm, and manifests in the psychic through concrete actions. However, it is necessary to refrain from rushing toward results. Many acts of service fail to reach their potential due to this impatience. Podcast offered by the Uxim Planetary Service Center. This enriched edition of The Consciousness and the Cosmos, a collection of quotes featuring insightful recordings of Daniel Gagliardo's teachings, the founder and instructor of Cosmosophy line Uxim, recorded during Cosmosophy gatherings held across Europe and in the serene landscape of Uxim, Argentina.